Despite Quant being below $70 as of right now, I want to talk about something that could be considered to be a pretty positive reminder as to what Quant has achieved so far, at least historically speaking, and more importantly, this year in 2026. Keep in mind, not too long ago, back in April, Quant was actually selected as one of the synchronization operators for the Bank of England's synchronization lab. Let's just take that into consideration. The Bank of England? That's so massive. And I think sometimes people forgot about this just because Quant isn't doing the best, but I still remember it. And I think it's actually a pretty positive reminder as to what Quant has done so far, and especially again in 2026. Now, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my perspective. But if I take a look at it, the stuff that Quant is doing goes far beyond the price charts. I mean, sure, people like to say, well, this is doing so bad, but really though? Okay, I mean, the price charts aren't looking the best, but the fundamentals are still kind of popping, in my opinion. And if we take a look at it, is the price really doing so bad though? Because if we take a look at Bitcoin, it's down around 2 times lower than its all-time high. Now, if we take a look at Quant, it's down around 2 times lower than December of 2024. So it's actually holding up a little bit okay, in my opinion, when it compared to, let's say in the case of other altcoins out there, and also at the same time, when compared to Bitcoin, which is not an altcoin, but I'm just saying, Quant's holding up pretty okay for the category of an altcoin. Usually an altcoin would go down, like let's say Bitcoin were to go down by that much, typically the altcoins that we're accustomed to seeing go down like 80, 90%. But when it comes to Quant, it's holding up just pretty okay, relatively speaking. I mean, of course, it's not good, but the market overall isn't doing the best. But considering how back in December of 2024, it was at around $140 basically, and then now we're seeing it at around 64 bucks, the pullback hasn't been so drastic in a sense where it's holding up a little bit okay when it compared to a lot of its competitors. Now, what do I think are major reasons when it comes to that? Now, first of all, I think it's because Quant has a good amount of holders, right? I mean, the amount of holders is around 168,000 almost. So it's not bad. So I think that strong community right there allowed for Quant to hold up a little bit better than some other projects out there. And also on top of that, I think it's due to the relatively low supply when it comes to Quant, because if we take a look at Quant, in terms of the maximum supply, it's around 14.8 million. Bitcoin is 21 million, just as a reference. I mentioned this even in my previous video, but I'm just saying that's really low, quite frankly speaking, right? I mean, around 14.8 million as the maximum supply, that's like over 6 million less than Bitcoin's maximum supply. Kind of ridiculous in a sense, but in a good way, because usually we don't expect an altcoin to have these sort of tokenomics, but I'm seeing that when it comes to Quant. And keep in mind, the core use case when it comes to Quant hasn't really changed much. But before I explain this, I just want to first clarify that if Quant could maybe just go back to around 140 bucks, which again we're over 2 times lower than that, slightly, I have zero complaints. It already feels like a altcoin season to me, sort of. Now, people like to say, well, why would you care about that? The movement just around like 2 times if it could just recover back to under 40 bucks. Like, why is that even a big deal? Well, my rationale is if let's say I'm talking about gold, silver, or platinum, let's say something else, right? Let's say I'm talking about a stock. If that does like a 2 times movement, in many like cases, it would be considered so legendary already. But suddenly, if Quant were to do that, it's suddenly considered really bad. No, I don't think about it that way. I would still think it's pretty impressive regardless. So I wouldn't find that to be a bad thing if it could recover back to under 40 bucks. You know, I could care less if Quant never goes back to its all-time high, which is like, you know, around $428 basically. You know, if it never goes back there, I have zero complaints. But if it goes back to around 140 bucks, which wasn't even considered that good anyways when it comes to Quant, you know, I have no complaints just because it already feels like a miniature altcoin season. With Quant being at around 64 bucks, do you know, or should I say, did you know, that these are basically levels we once saw around 5 years ago? I'm not joking. You know, I mean, it feels a little bit like a time machine, right? Like I'm basically able to dollar cost average once a month into a project that I'm a fan of, and then it's basically at levels in which it once were, or once was, I should say, in 2021. Like, what the? Yeah, I don't know if I'd complain about that, but I'm not telling anyone to anything. But even besides that point, the reason why I am still a fan of Quant's use case and I just don't feel like anything bad happened to it is because the Quant network, it's still doing its thing. The Quant network, by the way, is made up of the Overledger OS and the Overledger network. If we take a look at it, the Overledger OS is something that allows a multi-chain application to be built. So basically, it's an application that is on top of multiple blockchains instead of just one, hence the name, right? Multi-chain applications. Now, the reason why this could be pretty interesting, at least personally for me, is because imagine if I'm able to build an application that's not limited to just one blockchain. It would be a total game changer because there is no perfect blockchain, in my opinion. So, of course, even if I choose the quote unquote most best one, it still wouldn't be perfect. So, what happens when it comes to the Overledger OS? Again, it allows something called a multi chain application to be built. So, let's say I can build an application that not only takes advantage of the speed of the Stellar blockchain, which historically is known to be so fast, right? So I can take advantage of that, but then at the same time also taking advantage of the security of the Bitcoin blockchain. So again, if we take a look at Bitcoin, it's very secure, some people like to say, but then it's not that fast, arguably. But when it comes to Stellar, some people like to say, well, they don't know if it's as secure as Bitcoin. Understandable why some may think that way. But then they say, hey, it's very fast though. So what is the pros of Bitcoin and the cons of Stellar, it kind of is made up, right? In a sense where some of the strengths when it comes to Stellar compensates for some of the weaknesses when it comes to Bitcoin, but then vice versa as well. So again, if I can build an app that takes advantage of the speed of the Stellar blockchain and the security of the Bitcoin blockchain, it would be kind of a game changer, I would assume. And the Overledger OS, it allows exactly for something like that to happen. Now, does it have the best adoption currently? No, it doesn't, but sometimes mass adoption could, in some cases, take years anyways. So it's not a concern for me that, oh, the adoption is taking so long. Again, it could take years in some cases, so I wouldn't be complaining personally for me. And I don't mind waiting anyways, so it's not a big concern. But yeah, besides that, now that you've heard a little bit about the Overledger OS, now we take a look at the Overledger network. The Overledger network is made up of the Overledger OS users. And again, the Overledger OS and the Overledger network make up the Quant network. So when it comes to the use case of Quant, what really bad thing happened to it? I mean, it's still doing its thing, right? Personally, that's the way to take a look at it. I don't know what bad thing happened to it. Okay, the price charts are down, but Bitcoin's also down, Ethereum's also down, Solana, BNB, and all this. This is also down. Yeah, okay. It is what it is. It's not doing anything unusual, but actually the fundamentals are still there. So I don't mind. As long as the fundamentals are still good, I have nothing to complain about because I'm holding anyways. Like I have no reason to exit actually. So I don't know why I would do it for fun or anything. Like for what? Things are down. And I'm not in a hurry or in a rush anyway, so I don't see any good reason to just leave like that. I mean, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but this is just personally my perspective, right? Why would I leave just for fun? Like what does that do? I don't know why I would do that. But personally, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I'm just treating this like a marathon. It's not a sprint to me. So as of right now, seeing, kind of Quant in terms of what it has achieved in 2026, and more specifically, seeing how back in April, Quant achieved a pretty monumental milestone in a sense where they were selected as one of the synchronization operators for the Bank of England's synchronization lab, right? I just thought that was pretty legendary, and it kind of showcases that even in 2026, Quant is still doing its thing. But yeah, it's been a pretty quick update to just kind of talk about a reminder in regard to what Quant has done so far, more specifically in 2026, amongst other things as well. But this is something that I just wanted to highlight. Of course, they launched the mainnet when it comes to Fusion Rollup not too long ago. That was pretty impressive, but I already talked about that. So I want to talk about this and just kind of give a refresher as to what Quant has done, I guess, just a couple months ago, or what it achieved, I should say. But yeah, I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward when it comes to Quant. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very fabulous and amazing day.